On my birthday, my family gave me a special gift. When I opened it, it was an eviction notice for my own home. I smiled as I returned the favor on their wedding day. The eviction notice felt like ice in my hands, its sharp edges slicing through the warmth of the celebration. Just moments ago, I had been smiling, surrounded by my family, thinking this would be my best birthday yet. I'm Elena, and this is how my 30th birthday became the day my family betrayed me. "Open it, dear. We're so excited for you to see what's inside," my mother said, her eyes gleaming. Now I realize it wasn't happiness, it was anxiety. The elegant envelope seemed harmless, wrapped in silver paper with a delicate bow. The living room of the house where I grew up, the same one I had spent the last few years renovating, was filled with familiar faces. My cousin Marina sat on the armrest of the sofa, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. My brother Alvaro leaned against the fireplace, his hands buried in his pockets, avoiding my gaze. "Come on, Eli, we don't have all day," Marina sang in a sickly sweet tone. I remember thinking it was odd that she was so formally dressed for a simple family gathering. I tore open the envelope while the sweet taste of birthday cake still lingered on my tongue. But the legal document inside made me feel like the ground had vanished beneath my feet. The words eviction notice stood out in bold, cruel, and unyielding. "What is this?" My voice barely came out as a whisper. "Mom, Dad." My mother's face fell. "Sweetheart, we've been trying to find the right moment to tell you." "Tell me what?" I stood up, the paper trembling in my hands. "That you're throwing me out of my own house? The house where I've poured my savings, my heart?" Marina cleared her throat. "Elena, let's be reasonable. The house was never officially yours. The deed is still under your parents' name, and they've decided it's time for a change." "A change?" I turned to face her. "What do you know about this?" "I'm just helping the family make the best financial decision," she replied, smoothing down her designer blazer. "The market is booming right now, E." "The market?" I laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. "This is my home, not an investment property." My brother finally spoke. "Ellie, maybe we should discuss this in private." "No!" I slammed the paper onto the coffee table, making the plates of cake rattle. "I want answers. Now! Mom, Dad, why are you doing this?" My father avoided my gaze. "We've had concerns about your ability to maintain the property properly. Marina showed us some concerning documentation." I felt like I was drowning. "What documentation?" My voice barely held together. "I've done nothing but improve this house. Look around, new hardwood floors, a renovated kitchen, restored Victorian details. I did all of that." "With questionable contractors," Marina chimed in smoothly, "and then there are the neighbors' complaints about noise and unauthorized modifications." "That's absolutely false," my voice cracked. I turned to my best friend Lucia, who had been frozen in the corner of the room. "Lucia, tell them! You've been here through all the renovations." Lucia stepped forward, her expression firm. "Everything Elena has done has been completely legal. I've seen all the permits myself." But my family's expressions didn't change. My mother reached out to touch my hand. "Sweetheart, you have 30 days to—" I pulled away. 30 days? To leave my house? On my birthday? The room started spinning. "How long have you all been planning this?" Marina stood up, adjusting her blazer. "I think we should all calm down and discuss this rationally. The decision has already been made, Elena. Fighting it will only make things harder for you." Looking at her face, that perfectly constructed mask of false concern, something clicked in my mind. This wasn't just about the house. It was calculated, planned, her formal attire, the documentation she had mentioned, the way she positioned herself as the voice of reason. "Get out," I whispered. No one moved. "Get out!" My mother started to say something, but Marina was already walking away, her expression unreadable. One by one, they all left the house. When the door closed behind them, I collapsed onto the sofa. The eviction notice mocked me from the coffee table. Lucia sat beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "This isn't over, Ellie. Something doesn't add up." I wiped my eyes. The shock was fading, replaced by anger. "You're right. Marina is behind this somehow. She's wanted this house ever since we were kids." I straightened up, a new sense of determination flooding through me. And I was going to prove it. I looked around, my home, the walls I had painted, the fixtures I had restored, the memories I had built. I made myself a promise. This would not be the last birthday I celebrated here, not as long as I had a say in it. I want to know exactly what Marina has been saying about me. A heavy sigh came through the speakerphone. "Sweetheart, it's not just what she said. She showed us documents. Complaints from the homeowners association about unauthorized construction. That's impossible. I slammed my hand on the counter. I have every permit, every approval, all in my files. Who filed the complaints? Well, I don't have the documents in front of me. Marina handled all of that. Of course she did. I let out a bitter laugh. And did any of you bother verifying anything before ambushing me on my own birthday? Silence hung between us. Marina said you deny everything, my mother said quietly. She says you've been struggling financially, cutting corners. I want copies of everything, I demanded. Every document, every complaint, everything Marina gave you. Elena, please, try to understand. No, you need to understand. This house is my life. I've put every cent I have into it, and I am not leaving without a fight. I hung up before she could respond. Lucia squeezed my shoulder. That's my girl. So, what now? Now, we gather proof. I grabbed my laptop. I need to prove Marina is lying. My phone buzzed. A message from Alvaro. Meet me at Café El Sol in 30 minutes. I need to talk to you. 20 minutes later, I walked into the cafe and spotted my brother at our usual table. His face was tense, guilt-ridden. You knew, I accused, sitting across from him. You knew what they were planning. He ran a hand through his hair. I found out yesterday morning. Mom and Dad made me promise not to say anything. They said Marina had proof you were in trouble. And you believed her? Of course not, but something weird is going on. He leaned forward. Last week, I overheard Marina on the phone talking about property values and development opportunities in the neighborhood. My heart stopped. Development opportunities? Alvaro nodded. And get this, her fiancé Javier, his family owns that new luxury condo complex downtown. The pieces started clicking into place. Our street was one of the last historic zones in the city, a prime target for development, and my house sat on the largest lot. She wants to sell it to developers, I whispered. That's why she's doing this. Alvaro lowered his voice. I did some digging. Marina has been meeting with the Urban Development Office. Guess who else has been attending those meetings? I swallowed hard. Mom and Dad? He nodded. They think they're protecting you from financial ruin, but Marina is manipulating them. She convinced them that selling is the only way to save you from yourself. My phone buzzed again, an email from my mother with attachments. I quickly opened it, scanning the documents. The signatures were fake. The permit numbers didn't match. I turned the screen to Alvaro. She forged them. Keep your voice down, he warned, glancing around. Marina has friends everywhere. I don't care. I stood up, adrenaline surging through me. This is proof she's lying. I need to show Mom and Dad. Alvaro grabbed my wrist. Wait, Marina's wedding to Javier is in 2 weeks. Everyone will be there. Family, friends, business partners. I grinned. Perfect. If I'm going to expose her, that will be the perfect moment. 2 weeks to gather evidence and prove that Marina was stealing my house for her fiancé. I'll help you, Alvaro said firmly. Me too, Lucia added, but we have to be smart about this. I nodded. Marina thought I would just give up. She had no idea what I was capable of. As I walked home, I called Lucia. Do you remember your friend who works at the Urban Development Office? We need to talk to her. The game had begun, and this time I was going to win. The office smelled of stale coffee and printer ink. Clara, Lucia's friend, pulled out a file and added it to the growing pile on her desk. These are all the development projects in your neighborhood over the last 6 months, she whispered. My stomach dropped as I recognized a familiar blueprint. This is my house. Lucia leaned over my shoulder. Look at the date. It was submitted 2 months ago, before the eviction notice. Anger burned in my chest. This had been planned all along. Clara pointed to another section of the document. Here are your parents' signatures authorizing the preliminary evaluation. I felt dizzy. They've been lying to us this whole time. Lucia pointed to another signature. Look who notarized it. My heart stopped. Miguel Quiñones, Marina's father. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Clara hurriedly tucked the files away. I have copies. I'll send them to you tonight. We slipped out just before someone entered the office. In the parking lot, I struggled to steady my breathing. We need to talk to Javier, I said. Maybe he doesn't even know what Marina is doing, Lucia suggested. Of course he knows, I shot back. His company submitted the projects. My phone rang. It was Alvaro. Eli, come to Mom and Dad's house right now. What's going on? Marina is here with a contractor. They're talking about renovations as if the house is already hers. I was already in my car. I'm on my way. 15 minutes later, I stormed into my parents' house. From the kitchen, Marina's syrupy voice carried through the air. The entire neighborhood will benefit from modernization. Property values will skyrocket. Over my dead body, I announced, making everyone jump. Marina quickly composed herself. Elena, we were just discussing the future of the neighborhood. You mean your future? Your fiancé's future? I threw the development plans onto the table. When were you planning to tell everyone about Javier's plans? My mother's face went pale. What is she talking about? Don't listen to her, Marina said quickly. She's just upset about the eviction. Show them, I demanded. Show them the real reason you want my house. The contractor cleared his throat awkwardly. I think I should leave. No, stay, Marina ordered. Elena is just creating drama, always so emotional. I let out a bitter laugh. You forged documents, lied to my parents, and want to sell my home for your fiancé's project. Enough, my father shouted. Marina was only trying to help. Help? I threw the documents in front of him. Look at the dates, the signatures. She planned this for months. My mother picked up the papers with trembling hands. These aren't the documents you showed us, Marina. Because hers are fake, I said. She's desperate, Marina blurted out, but her voice didn't sound as confident anymore. I have the official copies from the Urban Development Office. Do you want to see them? For the first time, Marina's expression faltered. You went through the official records. And I found everything. The fake complaints, the forged permits, the development plans, it's all there. The contractor stood up. Mr. Quinones, if there's any legal issue, there's no issue, Marina interrupted through gritted teeth. Everything is in order. My phone buzzed. A new email. The promised documents. I held my phone up proudly. You want proof? Here it is. Marina's face hardened. You have no idea what you're doing, Elena. I looked her straight in the eye. No, Marina, you have no idea who you messed with. I turned to my parents. Check your emails. I just sent everything. Every lie, every manipulation, every secret meeting with Grupo Valverde Developments. My mother looked at Marina, her voice barely a whisper. Is it true? But Marina was already heading for the door, the contractor following her. At the threshold, she shot me one last look. This isn't over, Elena. Not even close. When she was gone, silence filled the kitchen. My father stared at the documents, his face ashen. We should have asked you. Yes, you should have. I gathered the papers. But now that you know the truth, what are you going to do about it? I left them there, surrounded by the evidence of how badly they had placed their trust. In my car, I called Lucia. Phase 1 complete. Now, let's go after Javier. I straightened my blazer and walked over to the table where Javier was having lunch with his sister, Sofia. Mind if I join you? I asked, sitting down without waiting for a response. Javier dropped his fork. Elena, what are you doing here? Funny story, I said with a smile. I just came from the Urban Development Office and saw some very interesting documents about my house. Sofia's eyes narrowed. Your house? You mean the one Marina mentioned? The same one your brother's company plans to demolish. Sofia turned to him, stunned. Demolish? The neighborhood is undervalued, Javier defended. It's a smart business move. It's my home, I shot back, and Marina manipulated my family to get it. Lucia leaned forward. She showed them falsified documents, making them believe Elena had put the property at risk. Sofia's expression hardened. Is that why you're rushing the wedding? Javier sighed. The timing is convenient. Convenient? I laughed bitterly. Destroying homes for profit? Sofia stood up, gathering her things. I won't be part of this. Sofia, wait! Javier tried to stop her, but she walked out of the restaurant without looking back. I smiled sweetly. Trouble in paradise? Javier glared at me. You have no right to interfere in my business, and you have no right to my house. I stood up. By the way, I sent copies of everything to the Urban Ethics Board. They found it very interesting how Grupo Valverde obtained those preliminary approvals. The color drained from Javier's face. You're lying. Prove it. I left my lawyer's card on the table. Outside, Sofia was waiting by my car. I want to help. Why should I trust you? Because I've seen how Marina manipulates my brother. Because I know how she operates. Her eyes burned with determination. And because I have access to Valverde's internal records. Lucia grabbed my arm. Eli, this is huge. What's in it for you? I asked. Justice, and the satisfaction of watching Marina's plan fall apart. She pulled out her phone and showed me emails exchanged between her and Javier over the last 6 months. Everything was there. The pressure on my parents, the strategy to force the sale, the urgency to close the deal. This is exactly what we need, Lucia whispered. There's more, Sophia added. Private meetings, financial agreements, I can get everything. My phone buzzed. A message from Alvaro. Mom and Dad saw the evidence. They want to talk. I turned to Sophia. We have to move fast. She gave a grim smile. The wedding is in 10 days, the perfect moment to bring it all down. As Sophia walked away, Lucia eyed me cautiously. Are you sure about using her? She's using us too, I admitted. But for now, we want the same thing. My phone vibrated again. An unknown number. Stay away or you'll regret it. Some things are worth more than a house. Lucia read the message over my shoulder. They're threatening you. They're desperate, I corrected, saving the message as evidence. And desperate people make mistakes. I strode to my car. Let's go see my parents. It's time to show them who they've really been protecting. I woke to the sound of shattering glass. Running downstairs, I found my window broken. Among the shards, a brick with a note. Final warning. With trembling hands, I called the police. While I waited, I sent a message to Lucia and Alvaro. They arrived before the officers. This has gone too far, Alvaro muttered, examining the brick. You need to be careful, Eli. I'm not stopping now. I handed the note to the officer, taking my statement. This is connected to something bigger. I have proof. Just file a restraining order, he replied indifferently. We can't do much without a suspect. After they left, Lucia and I boarded up the window. At least we have Sophia's emails, she murmured. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my mother. I need to see them. They've had time to process everything. I'm coming with you, Alvaro said. 20 minutes later, we sat in our parents' living room. My mother's eyes were red from crying. We've been such fools, she whispered. We wanted to believe Marina was helping us, my father added, his voice heavy. We thought they were just renovating the house, not planning to demolish the entire neighborhood. Marina knew exactly what to say, I replied. She preyed on your fears about me. Alvaro added, she's been manipulating us for years. Remember when she convinced you to give her grandma's jewelry instead of Eli? My mother's face crumbled. She said you didn't want them, that you thought they were old-fashioned. I swallowed hard. I never said that, just like I never made illegal modifications to the house or received complaints from the neighbors. My father nodded. We spoke to the community. No one complained. In fact, they love what you've done with the place. My phone vibrated. Sophia, emergency. Meet me at Parque del Rio now. I stood up. I have to go, but first, are you with me on this? My mother straightened her shoulders. We'll do whatever it takes to make this right. At the park, Sophia was pacing. Marina knows I helped you, she said, pale. She's threatening to expose something from my past to Valverde's board. What is it? A mistake from years ago. It could ruin my career. I took her by the shoulders. It can't be worse than what she's doing now. You don't understand. My whole life could collapse. Then let it collapse, I blurted out. Sometimes you have to lose everything to do what's right. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. Easy for you to say. You're just fighting for a house. No, I replied firmly. I'm fighting for the truth, for justice, for every person Marina has manipulated. My tone softened, including you. She wiped her eyes. There's more. I overheard Javier on the phone. They've moved up the closing date on the deal. It's happening right after the wedding. My blood ran cold. That's in a week. Less, Sophia corrected. The rehearsal dinner is in 3 days. She took a deep breath, straightening her back. You're right, I can't let her win. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Hope you enjoyed the brick. Next time, it won't be your window. I showed Sophia. She's losing control. Perfect, I said. The more desperate she is, the more mistakes she'll make. Sophia gestured toward the rehearsal venue. All the investors and the board will be there. It's the perfect time to expose her. She'll suspect something, I warned. Then we'll be smarter. Sophia promised to gather more evidence that night. My phone vibrated. Lucia. Your mother called. Marina is crying at her house, saying you're ruining her. Your parents don't believe her, but she's putting on a show. Let her. In 3 days, she'll have a real reason to cry. Every threat Marina sent only proved we were winning. One day before the rehearsal dinner, Beatrice, my lawyer, reviewed the documents. These emails prove the fraud, she confirmed. My phone buzzed. Marina, last chance. Remember May? Beatrice raised an eyebrow. Blackmail? I showed her the message. Some stupid thing from college. Save it as evidence, she advised. That night, Sophia showed me a security video. Marina was arguing with her father. I can't keep covering for you, Miguel said. This is too risky. Please, Dad, Marina begged. Just until after the dinner. What happens after? I asked. I don't know, but they've booked a private room. My phone vibrated. Lucia, Eli, someone broke into your house. I ran home. Alvaro and Lucia were waiting outside. Inside, all my renovations had been photographed and marked with red X's. They're preparing for demolition, Alvaro whispered. Lucia picked up a business card. It's from Marina's uncle's company. My jaw clenched. How did they get in? Mom told Marina where you kept the spare key. I sank onto the steps. This was my grandmother's house. Lucia took my hand. Tomorrow we end this. At the rehearsal dinner, Marina shone under the golden lights. Javier greeted the investors. I waited for my moment. Look who's here, Lucia whispered. Beatrice and Sophia walked in. Marina's smile tightened. Sophia, darling, I was afraid you wouldn't come. I wouldn't miss it, she responded coolly. Have you met Beatrice? She's an expert in real estate fraud. The murmur in the room quieted. Maybe we should toast, Javier said, uneasy. I stood up. I'd like to start. Marina's face drained of color. That's not on the program, but I insist. Silence fell. Beatrice began handing out folders. Consider it my wedding gift. Security! Marina screamed, but Sophia blocked the door. Here are the emails and falsified documents, I announced. Marina manipulated my family and forged permits to sell my house. Javier flipped through the papers, his expression darkening. You told me her family agreed to sell. It was just business, Marina whispered. I hit play on the security footage. After the dinner, it won't matter anymore. Javier's head snapped up. What was supposed to happen? Her father muttered, the demolition is scheduled for midnight. Chaos erupted. Furious investors, murmuring relatives, Javier stepped away from Marina. The project is canceled, and so is the wedding. But the contracts, Marina stammered. All void due to fraud, Beatrice interjected. The police arrived. My house was safe. The morning sun bathed the porch as I sipped my coffee, reading the headlines. Grupo Valverde under investigation. CEO resigns. Further down, local woman charged with fraud and criminal conspiracy. My phone rang. Sophia, did you see it? Yes. The board appointed me as interim CEO. Exposing corruption has its perks. A car pulled up. Mom and Dad stepped out carrying a box. We went through the attic, Mom said, pulling out old photographs. Dad pointed at one. The day your grandmother bought this house, her greatest pride, until you were born. Lucia came outside with more coffee. Look who's here. A police car stopped at the curb. Officer Martinez handed me an envelope. Marina stole this from your house. She also confessed everything. Inside were photos I had thought were lost forever. The prosecution is asking if you'll testify about the harassment. I glanced at the repaired window, at the brick. Yes! Then Alvaro appeared, with Javier. He wants to help, Alvaro said. Javier held up cans of paint. I owe you this. Start with yourself, I said. Then the porch. As they got to work, Mom and I sorted through memories. Lucia set up a picnic. Sophia brought documents. The board wants to restore historic homes instead of demolishing them. By sunset, neighbors arrived with food. Your grandmother loved hosting dinners here, Doña Rodriguez said. My phone buzzed. Beatrice. It's official. Marina is serving time. Your house is safe. I looked around. My home, my family, my friends. A legacy still alive. Lucia grinned. Your birthday is coming up. No surprises, I laughed. Just a housewarming, the way it should be celebrated. I watched Alvaro and Javier debating design choices, Mom sharing recipes, Dad telling stories. I raised my glass. To new beginnings. The wind carried the scent of jasmine, my grandmother's favorite flower. I sat on the porch steps, surrounded by love. The battle was over, but the story was just beginning. And this time, every page would be filled with joy. My legacy, my victory, my peace.